Welcome to this walkthrough for physical fitness and injuries in sport. This will help you to complete task 1.1 up to task 3 if you are a bit behind and you need to catch up in your own time. So let's get into it. We come down to task 1.1. We have identify the components of physical fitness and give a sport an example. So we have the 11 components of fitness on the left-hand side. I've given a example for football. So how will cardiovascular endurance be important? It's important so players can last for the full 90 minutes, work at a suitable intensity without getting tired. You can do different sports for each component of fitness to make it easier. Just make sure that you give your example as you go along with your different sports. Coming down to task 1.2, we're now going to be focusing on the physical components of fitness, that being cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, flexibility, and body composition. So it says describe these physical demands of a sport. So you're going to pick a sport of your choice, one that you feel comfortable and know enough about. Write out the physical components of fitness and say how they are used within your chosen sport. For task 1.3, describe the importance of improving these physical components of fitness. You're going to write out those 5 physical components of fitness again, those being cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, muscular endurance, flexibility, and body composition, and say how you would be able to improve in your sport if those components became better. For example, if you improved your cardiovascular endurance, why would that make you a better player in your sport? Well, it's probably going to make you a better player because you're not going to get tired as easy. You're going to be able to work at a higher intensity, which means you're going to be able to work harder in the actual game. And that would be one example of how you would improve. It's your job to then think of how, if you got stronger, if you had greater endurance, you were more flexible, and your body was lean with more muscle, how is that going to then improve your overall performance? 1.4, identify the factors that may affect physical fitness when preparing for sports performance. I've given 3 common factors here. So we've got smoking, alcohol, and diet. Smoking is fairly easy to understand how this will affect sports performance. You're obviously not going to be as fit. It's going to lower your aerobic capacity. You then need to do your research into alcohol and how diet will affect sports performance and give your examples below. Coming on to 2.1 now. So we're looking at more how to test the components and how to get data to be able to say if it's good or bad. So looking at common tests, I've given an example for cardiovascular. I've listed the Rockport walk test as my example. And in the explanation, I'm going to briefly say how I would carry that out. Same with muscular strength. I might list one, oh, the 1 rep max test as my example, and then say what it is and how that would be carried out. All you have to do is identify a test for all the other components of fitness, and again, say how you would then perform that test. Because as we come down onto 2.2, we're going to describe the procedures in more detail. So what you'll do is pick 3 tests from the list above and give a detailed breakdown of how you would carry those out. That's all you need to do for task 2.2, and 2.3 is a continuation because you then are going to go and pick 2 of those tests and carry them out in the gym or the lab. Once you've carried those out, make sure that you're getting pictures as you go along. You go into detail what you've done and put your evidence into this box as well. 2.4 is about listing the scores that you got for your two tests. So let's say, for example, you did the bleep test in the sports hall. You're going to write down your score. Let's say you got 10.2. Write down the score, compare it to the normative data, and then link that back to why that's important to different sports. Your other test might be a 1 repetition max for, let's say you use the bench press. Write down the weight that you lifted for 1 RM in relation to your body weight, and then say what category that puts you in. Why is that then important? And last but not least, state the importance of interpreting results for common tests correctly and over time. Well, as part of your season, if you are doing a pre-season, you know that you're going to do some tests at the start of the season to build up your player profile. As you go through, you should continue to retest to see if you're continuing to make progress or whether you need to change something within your training. As you are getting numbers and different data for the tests, this gives you what is called objective data. And objective data is quite clearly shows how you're progressing in a particular test. And that will help you to improve your performance over the course of a season. Next, it will bring us on to task 3.1. So what you've done so far is identify the components of fitness, identify tests that you can use to carry out the physical components of fitness. You've carried them out and you should have built up a performance profile that you can now put into a training program. So what you're going to do is develop an exercise plan to improve some of the physical components of fitness. You have a warm-up cardiovascular exercise, and a warm-up cardiovascular exercise only needs to be 5 or 10 minutes to increase the body temperature and increase the heart rate. We're then going to go through our dynamic stretches for upper and lower body. You can choose what stretches you want to include here. Just make sure that you have your 2 to 3 coaching points below so that if you were to give your program to somebody else, they would be able to carry that out unassisted if needed. Your main cardiovascular component, you should be able to carry out the cardiovascular component either in the gym or in the sports hall, depending on where you want to perform this session. And you then move on to your resistance training components, your resistance training. And again, you get to pick those exercises that you and your client want to perform. And just make sure that you have all the relevant detail in there for equipment, sets, reps, percentage 1 RM, RPE, and any alternative exercises that you want to put in if for whatever reason that equipment is out of use. Got a cool down at the end, and then your cool down stretches to make sure that the clients return back to resting and also reduce their risk of injury by performing the cool down as well. Once you've done your session and you've carried it out, you're going to perform a self-evaluation on what you did. So what did you do? Well, what you did was carry out a session either in the gym or in the sports hall. How did it meet your client's needs? Go through all of these questions and just reflect on your own performance. Technically, there's no right or wrong in this reflective log. It's about you looking at your instruction and considering ways that you can improve. That's going to be everything for this video. It's going to get you up to task 3. And hopefully by the time we get back after the break, you should be in a good position.